Yeah, about 40 ambassadors are in San Diego taking part in this State Department program. About half of them opted to come here to the southern border near Otay Mesa to talk with Border Patrol officials about best practices and talk about border security. Ambassadors representing countries from around the world stepped off a bus at Otay Mesa. They're taking part in a State Department Experience America program, which this year is showcasing San Diego.
It's a beautiful city, beautiful area. And what we are seeing now, it's also the complex security environment.
It's Ambassador Peter Shimonovich's first visit to San Diego. He and 18 other dignitaries toured the U.S.-Mexico border and spoke with Border Patrol officials about security.
Well, we have learned of the magnitude of the pressure on the southern border. That's what we knew even before that was. But here, being in the field, it helps us understand the dynamics of the security, the dynamics of the problems the Border Patrol and the law enforcement is facing.
Like many nations, Croatia sees its share of migration. In 2015, more than 1 million migrants crossed into the country after Hungary closed its border with Serbia. Initially, many were heading to Western Europe, although some are now seeking asylum in Croatia.
So we cooperate with our partners within the EU very closely, but also with other neighbors which are not members of the EU, such as Serbia, in our case, Bosnia and Herzegovina. It is a problem we all share, unfortunately.
Ambassadors asked agents about checkpoints, migrants, asylum, and security. Others also visited with CBP officers at the Air Marine Division or Port of Entry to learn about tariffs and screenings, an opportunity to extend diplomatic relations just feet from Mexico and next to a newly remodeled border wall.
We are putting a great emphasis on controlling our border. We feel the pressure constant, and what I see here and what we feel in Europe, one of the most important elements of trying to actually ensuring your border is international cooperation.
There were no ambassadors from Central or South America present on today's tour. It continues through Tuesday with the ambassadors meeting with various business leaders here in the San Diego area.